But before I start, I have a few comments. The blockchain industry is used to being spoken at rather than to. We've all heard talks of tulips and claims that this technology is looking for a solution. Well, in the face of those conversations, we've seen technology and market acceptance grow exponentially from a kernel of an idea into a trillion-dollar market. Those who denounce the technology, of whom there are many, but fewer than there once were, are quick to share their views about our sector. A question not often asked is how much time they have spent trying to understand the space before forming the views that they so strongly hold about its value. The use and flexibility of the technology will ultimately determine the success of the sector. Product development is moving at an extraordinary pace, and yet it is not the conversation that dominates. The conversation that often dominates things in the government sector is that of the role of regulation. So where are we? Well, we're only starting this conversation. Imagine that, 12 years after this technology bloomed, we're only at the point where we're starting the conversation. But the problem is not unique to us. The pace at which global acceptance is accelerating within the jurisdictions of the United States, the United Kingdom, the EU, Africa, MENA, and APAC regions, and the regulatory agenda discussions are dominated by digital assets, cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, digital wallets, payment infrastructure, and, of course, central bank digital currencies. Industry is leading this conversation with regulators, and we at GBA are helping them. The cryptocurrency and digital asset sector is not faceless, nor does it seek to be. The blockchain ecosystem will continue to move quickly while it seeks out less uncertainty. The conversation that we seek to have must dispel myths and half-truths. We call on regulators, and those of you who can influence regulators, to make clear those who do not understand the sector that while it's underregulated in some respects, the industry is acting appropriately, rationally, and reasonably while it awaits for regulatory certainty to arrive. This conversation impacts all of us. The technology involves your personal information, your data, your assets, as well as your privacy. It involves the role of government in protecting consumers, in creating environments for investment, for jobs, and for growth that will impact all of us. Opportunities owes us nothing, and our success will be determined by the opportunities that we create. Please lean in and listen to our conference speakers. The GBA is an organization that is committed to engaging government groups with blockchain technology. Take this opportunity to understand the technology, understand the role of government, and understand the unfolding regulatory environment and the role that government must play in expanding the use of this important technology. And with that, I'd like to welcome and introduce Gerard Deshay, Executive Director of GBA.
All right, excellent. And do we have Priya? Are you in the room? Priya? Okay, good. My remarks will be brief. So thank you, everybody, and Brian, thank you. GBA would not be where it is today if it wasn't for the support of Brian. In fact, I tell this story often. When I first started GBA, I identified, I think, 300 cities. And I said, we're going to have chapters in these 300 cities. And he invited me up to go on to his podcast. And I said, we're in the process of starting chapters in 300 cities. And he said, wow. But what he didn't realize is that process started by saying, this is the 300 cities, right? But then we got to work. And we started doing, I'll talk a little bit later about sort of this story. I'm going to do a keynote after this introduction, and I'm going to tell you about where we've come from, where we are today, and where we're going, and how we need to engage with all of you. We need your help. We've done a lot in a short amount of time, but we're going to do a lot more going into the future. And so this event here is a strategic part of that. And so when we came up with this topic, blockchain and sustainable economic growth, there's nobody that I thought would be able to put a program like this together than Priya Giuliani. So with that, I'd like to introduce Priya Giuliani and have her, come on up, Priya. I'm sorry, I got one other thing I got to say. As we put this event together, there's a whole bunch of people that made this happen. And if you don't have your program yet, please get one out there at the name tag. Hit the QR code to see all the folks that participated in this. This was, there's no time to list everybody by name, but I'm just grateful for all the folks that made this happen. And with that, Priya, thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you so much. Okay. Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Yesterday, we had an informal meetup and greeted the people who are already arrived, and the longest flight time was 30 hours. So thank you so much for taking out times from your busy lives to make this event iconic and historic. I'm Priya Giuliani. I'm the UK President of Government Blockchain Association, and I also lead Sustainable Environmental Stewardship Working Group. The group's mission is to help startups and big organizations, public and private organizations, and create sustainable, attainable, and maintainable solutions to combat climate change. I'm also an impact entrepreneur, helping individuals embrace sustainable practices and innovative technology solutions for a prosperous and sustainable future. You will hear a lot from me in the next 3 days, so coming back to the event, I'm the event director for our event today, Blockchain and Sustainable Economic Growth, and with all my heart, I want to thank people, all our team, especially Kathy, Kyle, Jordan, Bill, Rob Perry, Istiaq, Dr. Ingrid, Scott, EJ, Mike, Evan, Moon, team, and Bryant, and I definitely cannot afford to miss anybody, so thank you, thank you, thank you. We are here today because of all of you, and I'm so proud of all of us. Now, a lot has happened in the last few years, and we are all aware that, so we need a strong economic reset. If anything, the past few experiences have helped governments and citizens understand is that dealing with disruptions and shocks and realizing that focusing on economic growth alone cannot be enough. And it could increase exposure to rising inequality and economic assumptions and environmental damage. How can this crisis help us? And how can we basically change this for a sustainable and equitable recovery? What would be a leading position in shaping a global economic system that is also sustainable? How equipped are business leaders to identify the risks and opportunities related to a sustainable recovery? And also, what are the trade-offs between economic growth and action on sustainability? So for me, this event is about assess, address, and accelerate. And our promise is to bring 3 days of impact, all with a sustainable focus so that we can have the 1,000 flowers bloom. Today we have industry leaders, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and researchers between us from across the world to discuss how the world can effectively assess, address, and again accelerate their sustainable economic growth. Without further ado, I invite Eugene, who is going to be telling us about the voting application that you're going to demonstrate for the rest of the event. Thank you so much, everybody.